All right, guys. So this is a guy I've known a long time. Welcome everyone to the podcast, Mr. Sam Sowl. What's up, buddy?
Always great to see you, Jacob.
You too, man. How's life? Congrats on the new baby, if I should say that.
5 months pregnant.
Woo!
Yeah, June 11th. Well, I'm gonna be a dad, first time dad, and
Awesome, man.
I'm ready. We've been ready.
Life-changing things.
Yeah.
You just turned 35, right?
Correct. Yes.
Cool. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I thought it'd be interesting to have you on here because you're such a avid music fan, and I know, as I was saying in the intro, you've personally influenced me on music that kind of definitely took me in a different direction than what I was into at the time. And I think it's interesting, maybe in a sense, you could say you're inspired by music, similar to a musician, but you're not a musician. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's a good way to say it. And I think the best way for me to say it is there's a musician I like. His name is Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Wow.
Pretty sure he's Pakistani.
Cool.
And he's involved in, and I could be wrong on all these things. I could have even said his name wrong, but I think he's involved in some sort of devotional music. They might call it Carnatic music, but it's have you ever seen those clips or videos where there's 13 Pakistani dudes all wearing flowing robes, and they're sitting down lined up, and some are playing drums, some are singing, they're going like this, and
yeah. I think
he's the dude that did that. He's this big dude, and he would just wail. His voice was like an instrument itself.
That's awesome.
And you should check him out. I think back in Peter Gabriel was sort of dabbling in world music. I think he put out his albums on his Peter Gabriel.
Gave him some exposure. And, yeah, exactly. You'd have to send me the name and in a link or something, because
Sure, for sure. But I had one of his records, and on the back of it, I saw this quote that gave me so much I don't know, joy that someone out there throughout the history of time understood my relationship to music. And I think it's a Sufi quote, and it's that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's for all great art, or in this case music, for everyone who creates it, there needs to be someone who appreciates it.
And
absolutely,
that's what I was
talking about. Great art here,
and that's what I was saying too. How the fans are equally as important, especially when you have fans who kind of appreciate it on that deeper level, similar to how a musician appreciate. Because most musicians are the biggest fans too of other artists.
Exactly.
That's kind of fuels them. But there's always avid music fans who aren't always musicians as well. That's true. That's a great quote, man. That's a great quote.
I could find the exact quote maybe someday and send it to you.
There's this great Johnny Cash documentary on YouTube. I thought it was a cool quote. He said, when you make music or art for money, God leaves the room." I thought it was cool.
Johnny knows what's up.
Yeah, man. But let's I always thought from a really young age you always had a different background or influence of music, maybe through your parents or just kind of what you discovered on your own. And I met Sam halfway through middle school. Basically, he came to our public school at Aldridge Middle School, Beloit, Wisconsin. One of the finest schools.
You remember that mural that was in the hallway with Martin Luther King Jr.?
Yeah, that was dope.
Remember what he was doing?
Wasn't he had his hands together?
He was doing the West Side.
Wisconsin?
No, he's doing the West Side in the hallway.
Is that right?
Local legend, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I remember.
I tried to look it up online, but there's no information about it. But
Aldridge's still there, or the mural gone?
Nice. I have to go back and check. The hand might have gotten painted. Maybe he's doing the East Side now.
Oh, that's right. He switches up, his spirit. Okay. So he came to middle school, and I was like, this guy, he ain't into none of the trendy stuff. I was huge into hip hop at the time. Probably almost a direct result from that middle school or the town. I don't know, culture. And you just had some really cool influences and artists that I had no idea about.
Well, I didn't have long hair and a beard back then.
True.
It's not like we could have connected over that. But
I didn't either. What are you talking? Probably had bleached hair.
You had
no beard. Yeah, I had the peach fuzz later. Middle school. I don't know what I had.
You're absolutely right though about. I mean, it all started with having parents who saw music as not just like. It wasn't just like a bridge to put it on in the car when you're driving so everybody shuts up kind of thing. It was
right.
It was more of an integral part of our lives of like appreciating the room we were in or the people we were with or what we were doing. And yeah, I mean, my dad had a record player and a bunch of records when I was a kid, and I remember like, before I probably could even like walk a lot, I would be like crawling around and like looking at the records of the shelves on the bottom and getting like mystified by some of the album artwork. I mean, have you seen the cover of like some Santana records?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are probably my first hits, like.
That's crazy you can remember that, dude, but it had that much of an impact on you,
Yeah. I mean,
you're crawling like towards the square. You're like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe not all that come to the light, but and record covers are weird. Like especially for a kid growing up in Beloit, Wisconsin, you don't see like surrealistic art or like.
Well, you see like movie covers, but that's pretty different.
Yeah.
Especially compared to old records, Yeah. Maybe like 70s movies covers could kind of look like 70s records, but by the time in the 90s growing up, you got like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie cover or something?
You get like you get Bush 16 Stone, some like
or
album cover with some like rock on it, like
the Nirvana Naked Baby Chasing the Dollar.
That's iconic, but it's not the kind of thing that I would be mystified by.
Right. I mean, there's some stuff 60s, 70s that's just like crazy record art. And it was records too. They were like bigger. People read them more, looked at them more.
Yeah.
And
some of them are like probably like my first LSD trip. Looking at like. Like, have you ever seen the cover of like Incredible String Band? Let me show you this one, dude. Hold on a second.
Incredible String Band. This will be interesting. Look at that couch.
Man, I don't even know what section I have it in.
This guy's all organized. Alphabetical.
So I thought. Hold on, I'll find it.
This is definitely staying in the podcast.
Okay.
No, it's a town perk.
This is not one that I had when I was a kid, but this is an example of what I'm talking about. I mean,
nice. That
what the fuck?
Is crazy.
When you're a kid and you see this, you're like, okay, there's something else going on out there than just Sesame Street.
Okay, right. Psychedelia at a young age. When I think that's kind of, maybe in a sense, it's safe to say your parents didn't like get on the whole like, when you really start getting into like, I don't know, classic rock or music that doesn't have the most kid message. They weren't like turning you off from it. Like, no, you can't like AC/DC or whatever the hell, Hendrix or something.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think a good example of that is like Bob Dylan. I mean, what kid is like, oh yeah, Bob Dylan, his voice is literally like a fucking dog whistle for children, like it's not gonna go well. Yeah, but once you get past that,
I love it though.
Yeah, I mean, once you get past that, and once your parents are, if you trust your parents, they're like, no, I mean, why are they listening to this? There has to be a reason,
right?
And then eventually you find out, and then it all kind of sinks in. And having that foundation, I think, it plays a role in people coming around to things like Dylan or like the psychedelic, weird, trippy Beatles from the White Album and things like that. Like hearing it when you're a kid and hearing it again, you're like, oh, now I get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a really weird thing about like how much I used to be into hip hop. I used to know so many songs and I didn't know what the samples were.
Sure.
And like later in life, I like love the actual originals like 10 times better, but it's already has this That's pretty different, but you know what I'm
Like,
saying.
why do I love Roy Ayers?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
now
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
yeah. But so I was gonna say, yeah. So your parents, I guess, were just like really accepting, or it didn't mind you guys like embracing a kind of counterculture or 60s, 70s, because they were still kind of like into it. Were your parents into modern music much, or was it kind of like?
No. I think the only time that there was like a shift in my parents, mostly my dad's musical taste was I think when he was in his like mid 40s, he went on like a major jazz kick and like became
Mm.
obsessed with jazz, and that was like all I listened to for like a decade.
So that's when you're like 10-ish or so, or
Yeah.
so up until then you had gotten all this awesome
Up until then, it was
rock and
nothing
roll.
but Dylan, Beatles, Neil Young, Van Morrison, Joni
Dude,
Mitchell.
before
You
you
know,
were 10?
oh, I
That's
mean, yeah.
crazy.
And that's what. Honestly, if you think about it, some of that stuff is, I mean,
Oh.
it's more accessible than hip hop. You know?
Oh, absolutely. And it's just, I mean, that's so crazy because my parents, they had record collection too, but they just like the only older music they showed me was like straight up oldies, like the 50s, like some beatnik stuff, but more like Beach Boy, Elvis stuff or whatever.
Sure.
But even though they had records of like, at least like Steve Miller Band or
Sure.
maybe some Beatles, Harrison type stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. They never really tried to turn us on to that in a sense, or maybe, I don't know. Parents do whatever they do, but that's just kind of cool that they showed you the really, timeless music or artist at such a young age, because a lot of people almost have to discover that later, and that's what almost how I feel like being into hip hop and even punk rock and all this kind of trendy stuff. It's just like part of a journey to eventually get to the good stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like we were playing Chutes and Ladders, and I rolled a 3 and took that one right up to the top level.
Right. Okay. So can you remember like I don't know, like your favorite first album or song or artist or?
Yeah. So I think I was telling you a little bit about this earlier, but one of the things that my dad did to help my brother and I fall asleep would like late at night, he would, right before bed, he would play like a really like chill, mellow album or song, and turn it up pretty loud, of course, and maybe turn the lights down, and he would hold us and sort of just like rock us, sometimes both sons on one of each shoulder, and that was just like, it was like you're in there, you're kind of like in some like half state between like awake and asleep, and you're like in your living room, but you're also in the song, sort of traveling around.
Right.
And you couldn't play any old song to do that. And I remember one of the records he'd play a lot, and I have it here. This is actually the exact copy because he gave me his record collection at one point.
Wow, this is crazy.
It's
Full circle here.
Van Morrison's No Guru, No Method, No
Nice.
Teacher. And this falls right in with when I was a kid. I mean, I was scared of this record cover.
Yeah.
I would see that like
I could see that.
statue, and I'd be like, "What?" I would like, Van Morrison's even a little scary. He's like, looks like he's like, "What's going on there?"
Yeah, exactly. It's black and white, darker.
Yeah, but particularly a song on here called "Foreign Window."
I don't know if
And
I'm familiar.
that was a song that like
Really
I
mellow
think
and
the surefire put me to sleep song for sure, but not in like the song's boring way, but in like I've been carried off to.
dreamland.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good memories. That's nostalgia is such a powerful thing, especially with music. Did it take you later to hear that song again and be like, oh yeah?
I mean, I don't think I ever stopped listening to it, to be honest with you.
That makes sense, yeah. So you still go to bed with Van Morrison
Every night.
Man.
There was a while there when I was during some rough years, like in the early 20s, when I was just like, I would take solace in music late at night as well. Just put headphones on, block out the rest of the world, like many people want to do. And I remember there was one Van Morrison album called Vida and Fleece that was the one that would do it for me. That was like his like one of his like breakup albums where he went back to Ireland and like drank a bunch of whiskey and wrote some like sad weird like mystical
Ooh.
flute based songs.
That's
Fantastic album. Yeah.
he's like so experimental, like with his full catalog. I remember you turned me onto the album Astral Weeks, and that
Oh
was
no.
just like crazy.
That was basically his first album, yeah, a solo album, more or less.
Oh, really? I didn't realize.
I mean, that was first, but like that was the first one where he's like, okay,
Do my
I'm gonna go be
thing.
Van Morrison now. Yeah,
Yeah, and he already had his popularity and whatnot, or the
yeah. He
Brown
really had
Eyed Girl was already being played. I mean, I think that was like the most played radio song ever. But
something like that. Yeah,
okay, so wow, man, this is some powerful stuff you're putting out in the ether.
yeah. But
And then so your brother George played an instrument. He's played piano with me before, and he's played piano at a very young age. So what? Why didn't you play an instrument? Shammy?
that's a good question. I know the option was always available. I mean, there's a piano in my home. There was when I was born, and there still is today.
Mm-hmm.
That's a piano that George learned on. I think I might have even taken a couple lessons, but I don't know if I just didn't take to it, or if like they said, "Did you like that?" And I was like, "It was all right." We were never forced to do anything, you know.
Right.
And I think maybe I doubt George will ever listen to or watch this, but I think with me, my parents knew that I had a few more like options for maybe success at an early age. Like, oh, Sam can, if music doesn't work out, he can do this, this, or that. Whereas with George, they're like, we should probably find something for this guy to pigeonhole himself into.
Oh, I'm gonna get George on here.
Something later
George,
on in life.
George is gonna be on the podcast. Don't worry. I will
Yeah, right.
call that phone. No, yeah, he probably won't, but maybe in like a year he will. But okay.
Maybe, yeah.
So, but did he take to it like better, or just because I remember him being pretty damn good at age of 10 or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, yeah, he did take to it. He did. He's an artist. He's a left brain thinker. He's a musician. He has an ear too. He can hear a song and play it
Right.
5 minutes later. So I mean, that stuff's innate. I don't think he got that because he played piano. I think it all kind of worked together.
Well, and so yeah, so you didn't really have much of a desire to play an instrument, but you always continued to want to know and learn or listen to more music or new artists. Or did you kind of just like go through your parents' collection for a while, or when did you start to kind of like look for your own stuff? Or because it seems like you're maybe kind of pretty spoiled with a good collection, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I say, in a sense,
we were, my brother and I were obsessed with the Beatles when we were like in our 8, 9, 10. Like we just basically, maybe we probably only listened to the Beatles and then Tom Petty and maybe some, and then the Grateful Dead started sprinkling in.
And then the Traveling Wilburys. No, sorry.
Of course, Traveling Wilburys, sure. I remember one time I had a friend over who was not a music fan adept, and I told him that the Traveling Wilburys were me, my dad, my brother, and a couple of my uncles. There's 5 guys in the band. He was like, nice. He's like, nice.
That sounds great.
Yeah, he's like, you're good. I was like, yeah, I know.
You're actually like listening to it, and
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Singing along. He's like, oh yeah, that must be you. You know the words.
Well, with a name like that, it's believable if you really don't know, I guess.
Sure.
Okay, so you're obsessed with Beatles, and
yeah, and so like, you know what a big shift was my dad came home one day with a 5-disc changer CD player.
Oh.
And he still worked every day. So I remember there was this one summer where like my brother and I just had like run of the mill. We just line up 5 CDs and just fucking listen to them all day long,
Nice.
And you learn those songs, you learn those inside out. And yeah, those are ones that like obviously my dad owned them all. I was 9. I wasn't buying CDs. But he would play something and it would just catch my ear. So other things in that rotation, I had Bob Marley Legend, which, I've
classic.
Yeah, that's part of my DNA.
Yeah.
And then probably my first this is so lame now, but my first like contemporary band that I liked when they were out was Counting Crows.
Hey, I mean, originally,
They were pretty cool. The
listen to
first couple
what?
albums,
Yeah.
like the Adam Duras might be like one of like the lamest people around right now, but
No, yeah. I mean, at the time, yeah. No, when they first came out and before they kind of like, I don't know, just got into this culture of
yeah,
popness, but
yeah.
that's cool. So when did you buy your first CD, or do you know what it was, or album?
I do know that somehow I was able to talk my dad into doing that Columbia House, like 13 CDs for 13 cents or whatever.
Oh, I remember
Like there's
that.
always advertised, you get it in the mail. And of course it was like some like scam, like you ended up paying like you get 13 CDs for 13 cents, then your next CD costs $75. I was like, what?
Yes.
I think
So
I
what?
probably bugged him enough that he's like, fuck it, and he did it, and he let me pick like all 13. And it was like I did like a weird mix of like, like classic stuff that I knew was dope from like to like impress him and like make sure like he didn't like put the kibosh on the whole thing. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, these suck. Like, but I also like got some like lame, like, current like bands that ended up being like one hit wonders. Like I know one of the CDs I got was Dishwalla.
I think.
That tell me all your thoughts.
Oh yeah.
God.
No, I didn't see. And that was back like before like singles were really singles, and you like
Right.
you had to buy the whole album or whatever.
Yeah.
And my brother bought a lot of those. He had like the REM album or
Yeah. I had REM. For sure.
This
I
is
mean, I
another
still
band.
listen
It's
to
not
REM
coming
now.
to me, but yeah, REM's cool. But
I think I got
there's
like
a lot of
Alanis
those.
Morissette, stuff like that.
Oh, for sure, yeah, Jagged Little Pill. There was a lot of artists like that one, your Dishwalla, that were
Yeah.
'90s one-hit wonders rock, but
Like grungy, but like soft.
it's
Easy
like
to,
acoustic grunge. Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
balance between like pop and grunge or something. Which a lot of them, they weren't bad to like what mainstream or pop can be
No,
nowadays.
those bands
but-
are awesome compared to the music that's popular now.
Yeah, and then there's always like, whatever, one out of how many are ones that actually can stick around and,
Sure,
like
I wish I had bought in like, Yola Tango or like Sonic Youth or Pavement Records or something like that at that time, or
right.
gotten like a Bjork album or something, but I
remember
wasn't
I
that cool.
Yeah, right. Or like Primus at a young age or something.
Yeah, Ween, get my first chocolate and cheese CD with my
Oh, that came out like '94 or something. Yeah. We were like, you were been 9. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so
I think Columbia House probably was not willing to sign along with Ween at that time.
okay, so that was these were the first ones you got, or your
That
choice.
was the first time I had like a glimpse of autonomy with like what CDs are going to be around the house and whatnot.
Right.
But I think the next major shift though was probably when, so my dad had some friends come over one night and they like got in the walls and they were like drilling and like I was like, what the hell's going on? And what they were doing is they were connecting speaker wires from my dad's stereo upstairs through the walls down into the basement.
Oh, dope.
And you got a couple big tower speakers down there that really fill that rec room. And he taught me how to like, okay, so press B on the receiver to go to these speakers, press A to go to these ones, and press, and so we would we'd start listening to music pretty loud in the basement. That's when we play things like Dire Straits,
Nice.
things like that. And
Southbound, man.
Yep. And my dad and I would play this football board game called Stratomatic. That's another podcast. But
Stratomatic.
and we go down there and we just have like 3 hours to play this like long strategic football game, and we'd listen to music while we were down there. And that was when I first started listening to that's when I first heard American Beauty. Of course, by Ted. And I don't know, it's probably about 11 or 12, maybe 13. Probably 12.
Dude, this is crazy.
I knew right away that was real. That was as real as music got.
Right.
I knew that those were all musicians that were masters of their domain, that were basically placed on Earth to be those musicians and be who they were.
Right,
And I didn't know what they were. I mean, I had like images in my head from seeing it on like TV or whatever. Like, you know, I knew what Jerry Garcia looked like, and there's some sort of mystique to that. And
right, the Haight Ashbury look always comes up in my head.
Yeah,
when they're real young, but dude, that's awesome, man. Like at that young of an age, because that's an incredible. That's probably their peak. I kind of like Working Man's Dead.
Yeah, that's right there with it. Right there with
they're back. They're back to back. You know, like I think.
Yeah,
a year.
Those are definitely like sister albums. I think you could call them.
Definitely. And they still had Pigpen.
They still had Pigpen.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason too why I was so into it and so enamored by them is that, you know, listen to American Beauty. The first 4 songs all have a different lead singer.
Right.
And
then they had those crazy harmonies.
Yeah. Well, like I remember I didn't find out until I'd been a fan of the album for like 5 years that Phil Lesh sang "Box of Rain." I just assumed it was Gary with like a weird mood or something. You know, I was like,
that's his one. That's Phil's one. You know.
Yeah.
And it is it's
he's got a
unique voice. Well, yeah, that's right.
A couple other weird ones.
Well, it's like, yeah, and obviously, I mean, pretty much everyone else has a very distinct voice. You know, especially Pigpen. I mean, all of them do. Jerry and Bob. But man, that's incredible. So, can you remember obviously maybe before the stereo system, can you remember a difference in sound from record to CD, or was it not as prevalent at the time compared to now? Maybe.
I remember not making me. I couldn't really tell much of a difference. And even though my dad had, he had a nice Pioneer, amplifier.
Were the speakers for both CD player and record player same speakers?
Yeah.
So
it was all connected.
Cool. But you couldn't tell difference at the time, and it's just kind of, you have to be training your ears in a sense.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really operated the record player too much, to be honest with you. Like I like the records, and I wanted them to be played, but it wasn't as easy as they are now, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're young and you don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
I'm saying. Huh. Okay. So
I didn't notice then.
So what about you're going to school with people, is there anyone else who even knows about, I mean, everyone knows the Beatles and whatnot, but a lot of people my parents, they only really introduced me to the Beatles before the Rubber Soul, or whatever, when they were more pop or when they were still performing live. Beatles,
sure.
Help and all that. Love Me Do.
I don't think in middle school, no, I don't think I knew anybody that liked the same music that I did, besides my brother or maybe a cousin, And
you just some of the modern rock that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
that could help you relate to some people, right?
That's the thing, though, and it's still true today. Is I'm not only into old music. I like new music just as much as the next guy, and I'm constantly trying to find new stuff too. So it's not like I'm, because I do know some people who are anything made after 1980, I'm not listening to it. And it's well, you're missing out on a lot of good stuff.
Well, I just think, if you're so focused on past artists, how are you gonna pay attention to who's carrying the torch?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? There's always a new generation of modern artists who are paying homage to those classic people.
Okay, yeah, the thrill of discovery is part of that too, So we can go more into that later.
So you were kind of you would get into modern stuff. Maybe you were almost more particular because you had such a rich background in music, so you kind of only would certain radio stuff. But with that, I mean, in a way, it might help you relate to friends.
Sure.
Me and you were friends, but I was just you definitely didn't listen to gangster rap.
No.
In 7th grade. I did.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to it. I didn't like it.
But I still liked, as much as I loved that, I still liked the same 90s rock stuff that we were just talking about. So,
sure.
I guess I can remember going to your house, and it was always interesting to see what I'm going to hear, something new. Especially, later when we were freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
and hanging out a little more. And if your brother was gonna punch me or something, but
Listen to this song. Yeah.
it's my favorite. Yeah, but well, yeah. So that's what I was saying earlier. I remember, like Jimi Hendrix. All at the time when I was like 14, 13 maybe. I just knew maybe the hits. Purple Haze, Foxy Lady, maybe Hey Joe. The stuff that it's just in mainstream everything. You see it in movies. Probably Forrest Gump, really.
Yeah, sure.
But and then I just remember going to your house, and I probably slept over, and the next day we were listening to the Blues acoustic album, which is kind of like a collection of his acoustic stuff. And I don't know, I at the time I don't think I realized it, but it kind of started an appreciation for me of more of a rootsy type of music. You know what I'm saying? Like acoustic music.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and blues.
Like I was saying about hearing the Grateful Dead for real for the first time, is okay, these are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could be in the studio hearing this instrument being played, and there's more of a easier connection, at least for me in that sense.
Well, and I've tried to almost explain this to you before, that I feel like maybe if you have to be enough of a fan or something, but you can hear the difference when someone has to write a song as compared to they write it for whatever monetary gain or whatever reasons to get a hit, as opposed to I must get this out of me. And even though the Dead, they had a separate lyric writer, they were just such a family. It was this is what comes out when we're all on the same frequency.
Certainly.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, do you think you can hear that in a song?
I do. I mean, yeah.
It's genuine or not, in a sense. Is it authentic? I guess.
Yes. I do. I think that you can see. I think that's true of not only music. I think that's true of other forms of art as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think Robert Hunter would probably be the first to agree with you that he doesn't even get full credit for the songs that he wrote. That's all part of one kind of greater artistic connectivity.
Yeah, and that was that was the beauty of the Dead, and that's how it almost extended to their fan base as a family, because it's almost we're all in this together. And it kind of goes different ways. It's a little different now. Maybe it's a little for money now, but they're old, whatever. But I think they just their music represents that to the fullest. Especially particular albums, just like a connection.
Yeah.
Gathering. But yeah, we're making lots of sense here. So what's going on?
Well, it's you're trying to describe something. You're trying to describe the abstract. You're trying to describe what it feels like to have a muse or something. You can't really describe that. You just you have it or you don't. And you take advantage of it or you don't.
Right, exactly. And it's almost it's just one of those things, right place at the right time. And it's just like you said, when you heard it, it was oh, this is this is how it's supposed to be. There's no other way. Even though, and that's another beauty of the Dead, they never played a song exactly the same way. They never wrote a set list. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
They would do dress rehearsals before their big shows of adding new songs and whatnot, but they would literally go out on stage and be what are you feeling? So then when they go into another song on the spot, that's really on the spot.
Yeah.
Maybe now they do, but
and that might be why you see so much. If you're watching the old concerts, you can see them those looks yeah, you're going there, I'm going there with you.
I'd say it's a frequency, and
yeah.
Man, that's some powerful stuff in music. And I think that's again how the crowd was feeling it, because the crowd's giving them this energy that's shifting the direction of the jam or the song or the set list, and crazy, and they might even be the first to tell you that not every show was the greatest, they're human beings, but it was all
Jerry was
great
a very
jam.
very strong self-critic.
Yeah. And, he got naturally weaker as he got older, but he was an incredible guitar player. And, there's definitely some like peak eras of the Dead time frames, you know what I mean? I kind of like the late 60s to almost early 80s. Shakedown Street, can't forget about Shakedown Street. But yeah, so more on the unexplainable. So then what? What happened next? Who knows?
What happened next? Let's see.
When did you really? You're like, I listen to a lot of stuff my parents don't even know, because I'm like, I'm a man now.
I think there was a time where I started getting into stuff, and it wasn't like, Dad, you don't like Death Cab for Cutie? What's wrong with you? Like, it wasn't like I was like, it was like, why didn't you own a copy of the Brown album by the band? Like, explain to me this gap in your fucking taste. Somebody stole that from me. I'm like, all right, I'll forgive you. But like, why didn't you own Rust Never Sleeps? So yeah, what I would do is I would dig deeper into the musicians that everybody has their favorite album. So whereas with Neil Young, as a kid, I was listening to Harvest Moon all the time, or I was listening to just regular old Harvest all the time. Right. And then as I got older, I was like, why didn't you ever play Cowgirl in the Sand for me? Maybe that wasn't part of the bedtime routine. That song's a little
didn't
too
play
rough.
That album?
Not when I was a kid. No, I never heard.
Everyone knows This Is Nowhere? Or
I didn't hear that in its until I sat down later on. Yeah.
Why didn't you play Greendale for me, man? That was later.
Yeah, because I can't.
Because you weren't living at his house anymore. Okay, so you're going deeper into artists he's already introduced you to. Right. And then did you almost, that could be endless. But did you hit a point where you're like, I don't know, what got you into different artists, I guess? Because I know you know a lot more stuff than
I think
they might be into.
We can skip over some stuff. I mean, there was a pretty lengthy period, where I was into indie rock. I was listening to
Really? This is probably when we didn't hang out as much in high school.
Yeah, so there actually is a direct connection. So there was, this can all kind of show. This is all going back to the things we've talked about. So I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, waking up one morning after my parents, of course, on a weekend day, and I heard music coming up from downstairs because my mom and dad were listening to calm, chill morning music, and I heard this voice that was probably at the time, there was just it doesn't sound that similar, but there was some intonation, almost some connection of the same sorrow that Jerry held in his voice in some of his songs. Like take, for example, Candyman, I hear sorrow in his voice. And it was the voice of Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. And that was the first time had ever heard Wilco. And he was singing Jesus, Etc., which is also sort of a kind of a sad, somber song in some ways. And I was like, Dad, who is this? And Wilco. And from there, that was kind of my high school and early college favorite modern band. And so they had these really catchy songs like Jesus, Etc., or other songs on that album, the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot album. But then they had some songs that were very experimental for an indie rock band. Songs that involved drone, songs that involved, just noise, bursts of noise, stuff that disrupts the song from its, trajectory and takes you here and then you gets back into it and you're like, what the heck just happened? All sorts of dissonance, recordings of messages being read, and so they just kind of throw the kitchen sink and that's the kind of stuff that my folks would be like, I don't like that part, but I'd be like, what is that? This is something I haven't heard before. And
that's not as musically pleasing to my ears.
No, it is not.
To you.
It wasn't supposed to be.
Right, but that's
that
part
was
of their point. Yeah.
That was probably a turning point for me was like, okay, I like this weird shit. And so that helped me get into
Wow.
other indie rock bands that are weird. We're talking like, Flaming Lips, just bands that, Sonic Youth, bands that were into experimenting. They didn't always have to sound pretty, but they still had as much musical chops and melodic chops as anybody. But they're saying, there's more to it. There's things we're trying to express. There's things we're trying to deconstruct. So I just kind of followed that. And I think that's a quick way to sum up how I got to a point of where now in music, I'm often just following this thread of experimentation and things I haven't heard before, with the overarching sort of category of psychedelic.
Oh, okay.
I was living in San Francisco for a decade, and at that time I was, there was experimentations with, things that make music a little more exciting or different, and a little more sound a little different when you're under certain guises.
Mind altering.
Mind altering. I was reading mind altering poetry that made me get ready for the music.
Yeah, it's good paper poetry out there.
Yeah. So I would follow these threads, and that's what got me into international music. Is listening. I would listen to I listened to a lot of Indian music. I listened to a lot of Japanese music. I listened to a lot of African music.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, and all that stuff is. I mean, especially with Indian music, though, you can tie that right back to George Harrison too.
Oh yeah, totally. Ravi Shankar and
yeah.
I like a lot of that stuff too when it kind of gets in again under this umbrella of psychedelia. It's like a trance, in the what's the cool drum? The
tabla.
Yeah. That shit is really dope. And I like those old school Japanese instruments. They're similar to like a fiddle and almost like a banjo. I had like this one. I wish I could name it, but it was just like very calming music.
Maybe the Santur, something like that, or
possibly.
It's kind of like a dulcimer or something, like
yeah. Right, with a bow.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to what you were saying just a second ago, like how the bands that kind of experiment more, it's like I think it's not only to like express another element of the band or themselves, but I think that's also like showing appreciation again to like the listener and them as a listener, to like how can we give a record like a full experience, you know what I mean? Because we can always have those songs that are pleasing and maybe more appealing to the masses and whatnot, but like putting those extra things in there kind of like for you, for the listener, for us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's I don't know, I feel like maybe that was like their intention more, or
I think that's a really
more examples by that point, like Pink Floyd always comes to mind.
Sure.
As someone to like go off of. You ever get into like Radiohead much, or?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people for a while they were calling Wilco the American Radiohead, but yeah.
I don't know why I missed the Wilco trip. I got into Radiohead a little bit.
Wilco.
I got into him later.
They've had a nice sort of after late career sort of. They're like one of the jam bands now. Like their fans are just as rabid as like not as rabid as the Grateful Dead fans, but you'd be surprised. There's people who just love Wilco, and their shows feel like family gatherings. It's pretty awesome.
Well, and I love the. I think I got into him that much more with the Billy Bragg collaboration and the
those are phenomenal
thing. And that's just like that's another more. Well, they do a lot of acoustic stuff too, anyways. But that one's like kind of straight, that folky thing, which I love that thing. But yeah, they're all over the place, man. They really. And Tweety does his own thing too, right? Or he's
got a couple great solo albums. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's just endless amount of stuff you could have got turned into while living in San Francisco. Any like incredible local regional
Yeah.
something that just
So
sticks with you?
when I first got there, so I lived in San Francisco from 2009 to 2018. And when I got there, it was sort of right before kind of like that second .com boom where like, Twitter and Yelp and Facebook, I mean, they all existed,
Yeah.
but they weren't like the world beaters that they are now.
Right.
And so I got there before then, and there was still a bunch of like really dope, like, not bohemian, but just like people who were there for a reason more than just to make money or have a job or to be cool. They were there because like they were into art, they were into exploration, they were into being on a journey or on an adventure, and
Yeah.
finding like-minded people. It was awesome. By the time I left, that was more or less over with. And part of that, I mean, yeah, and well, those people got priced out.
Right, yeah.
Unless you already had rent control, you couldn't move there and become that person. You weren't, so your journey had settled you and jaded you at that point if you were still in San Francisco and trying to live that life.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, there's a bunch of bands living there too, a bunch of musicians living there. By the time I left, they were all gone. They had all moved to LA or somewhere else. Prime example of that is Ty Segall. He's a huge psychedelic garage rocker now that a lot of people are into. And yeah, he was in San Francisco. He's a Bay Area guy, but he couldn't live there anymore for multiple reasons, but probably just because it wasn't worth it,
Damn.
But for a while, he and a bunch of other groups, there was this awesome psychedelic rock scene where you would go to a show and your brain would shake. It would be awesome. It was like its own drug. We're talking about, there's this one band called Wooden Shiyips, spelled SHJIPS.
I feel like you've played this for me.
Yeah, they're like kind of like a kraut rocky, but like, they have this like motoric sort of sound, but then like they'll come in with these guitar solos that just sound like you all of a sudden you installed like a quadraphonic stereo system in your living room, even though you don't have one, and there's just like 6 different things coming at you. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're great. And so I go see them at like a bar, or like a little mini psych fest for like $10 or something. Other bands like Carlton Melton and Howlin' Rain and
Howlin' Rain, yeah, you've showed me them.
Yeah.
Isn't it like pretty heavy?
It's all super heavy, dude.
Just like, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like
between like psychedelic music and like stoner metal, or
yeah. It's like, and it's got like it's like a trance. It's like a groove of
Totally.
this heavy.
Totally.
And did a lot of them have a lot of vocals, or it just depends on the band? A lot of them.
The vocals could come or go. Yeah, those are
right.
You take a backseat to everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I kind of like feel like I can hear exactly what you're talking about, because like that's a good description of it, like rocking.
I'll grab a Wooden Ships album. Let's take a look at it.
Or you got Howling Rain.
I don't think I have any of theirs right now. This isn't really that cool of an album cover to look at. There's a Wooden Ships skull. This is the back. That's kind of fun. But like,
dope.
This is heavy.
And how old is that? What year is that? Came out while you were like getting into them, or a little earlier?
Probably. This is probably like 2010 or something.
Right on.
No, this is recorded in 7, 8, and 9. Yep.
Well, still, pretty much as you're discovering the band or getting into that scene, and
you see those guys on the bus, stuff like that.
Right. That's so cool, man.
They all had day jobs.
Right.
I think another San Francisco band that was pretty evocative of the time I lived there, and they're still hopping, and they're carrying the torch, is this group called Sunny and the Sunsets. They're sort of like a alt country garage psyche group, like a little bit of mixed bag of everything, but they have this really kind of, you can tell through the music, they have like a DIY aesthetic, and they're just making albums for the sheer joy of it and playing shows and having fun and partying and keeping it real and joining the local softball team at your coffee shop and that kind of stuff. Like
No kidding.
yeah,
Huh.
that to me is San Francisco music. But by the time I left,
It was
no.
the tech world took over.
Yes, sir.
Damn. It's very similar in Sonoma County too, or just price of living going up and not the price of your wage,
No.
right? But I actually wanted to maybe backtrack a second.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I hadn't seen you for a while, kind of whatever. We hung out with different crowds probably halfway through high school. And then when I came to visit you when I was like doing all this traveling. I was basically like living in and out of my Jeep for about 5 or 6 months in 2008.
That's why I lived in Santa Rosa, California.
Yeah, you live in Santa Rosa, California, which is also in Sonoma County.
I remember we went to a Graham Parsons tribute concert.
That's what I was gonna say. And that whole trip, I was kind of doing gigs, whatever, in Beloit when I was back there. But it was like the whole trip was like I was traveling to get inspired to like write songs and stuff. And I just remember like after going to visit you and seeing this Graham Parsons tribute band, which was like the anniversary of his birthday or
something like that. Yeah, it was.
And it was a really awesome band, and it kind of just because I knew of like I guess kind of more classic country in a sense of your Johnny Cash, your Hank Sr., Willie Whalen, all that. And then it was just like another he can get pretty out there in some sense, but he also just has a
different cosmic
sound.
country.
Oh, that's right. There you go. Cosmic Country. That's dope. And he was like, didn't he have like a cowboy name, like Cosmic Cowboy?
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I just remember that was, again, another like big influence. And, you were probably, you know what else you turned me on to that fucking trip? T-Rex, man. And it was
they're a hard band not to like.
T-Rex was always out there, but it was like, I don't know. I think he had a documentary or something, or
maybe. I mean, everybody's heard the song "Bang a Gong," but
yeah, and that's all I kind of knew, and yeah, it just got like really, and you had your neighbors were like really into them too, or something. We
I had a couple of neighbors that were into all sorts of glam and
glam rock,
that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that was dope, and that was just again, it was kind of just a crazy. Well, it just for me personally, a crazy experience because I remember one day I was like, I'm gonna like drive to the coast and I'll like come back tonight, and I came back like way later. I thought you guys were like I was locked out because you were sleeping or something, but I ended up I got lost as fuck, but I ended up driving like right where I used to live, or where I ended up living 6 years later,
out on River Road
in Monte Rio,
yeah.
And it was, I ended up going, like, all the way to the coast and then heading north, like, going past Jenner. But it was, like, I'm pretty sure I came in, it probably was on River Road, but I know I got lost somewhere on the way back, and it was like, oh, shit. But I don't know.
That's before Google Maps on your phone, too.
Oh, and dude, that was another part about those days. Like, I was totally just reading maps, and it was so much more fun, man. It was just, like, I just had me and the dog and a guitar, and I remember I went to the coast when I finally got there, and I was like doing something with my camera. I like broke my camera like on the coastal rocks.
Yeah, well, let me just break my camera real quick now that I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's probably like, I gotta like film myself playing this song. Oh, there it goes. But I don't know. Anyways, that just reminded me. It was kind of like because I was in Colorado the rest of the time, and I don't know. I was only hanging out with you for like a week that time or something, and it just being somewhere different or having a different thing. It kind of had a different influence, I guess, but bigger impact in a sense.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good visit.
Yeah, I don't know. That was cool. Who's your roommate? Scott? No.
Scotty.
He's cool. See him anymore?
I haven't seen him in a while, but he's alive and well in Austin, Texas.
Hell yeah. I love Austin.
Yeah.
He was a cool dude. Right on. So, shit, where are we? We're all over the place. So
Yeah.
now you're in Milwaukee. Been there 2 years?
Yeah, under year and a half, too. Yeah.
Year and a half. Yeah. Are you getting into the music scene as much there, or you kind of more had to focus on work? And
Well, for a while, I didn't have to focus on work because I didn't have a job. So I
that's right.
I talked my way into a job at one of the record stores here. Um, it wasn't like, any form of like taste making, record store spot. We hardly had any customers. It was more of like a front for people to come sell us records that we would then, sell online or, profit off of.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
but it was fun. I just got to sit around, listen to music, talk about music all day. So nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there's a really fantastic record store here in Milwaukee called Acme Records.
Oh yeah.
And the owner there is a man named Ken. He has a radio show, and he just nearly everything that he likes, I like. And that place is like an oasis here in Milwaukee for like, strange out there, sort of esoteric music that I'm into now. And
They've been around for a while, right?
I think it's about 7 or 8 years old, the store.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. I can picture the logo. So that was probably right when I was kind of bouncing around there more, but or
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he will host shows too. And so I've seen some pretty fantastic performances in his place, and not just like local. Like he'll bring people in from around the country to come play there, and there's never more than 25 or 30 people there, and he'll turn the lights down, and it's just about as
That's so
intimate
cool.
a concert as you can get, and so I try to go to as many of those as I can, and I'm often finding new music that way, or just hanging out there and talking to him and talking to the other customers. That's locally the best way to find.
You still live on the south side?
Yep.
Cool. Right on. So through customers but any local bands much, or just kind of catch what you catch? No, not into the. Milwaukee has some great local bands, man. I'm telling you. I don't know. I'm probably not as familiar as what I used to be, but
Yeah, I don't know where I would find them though. Like they're not playing at like the festivals and stuff. Those are like, I don't know. Maybe they are.
there's like smaller, I don't know, concert in the park things. It just depends on what you're into. I just remember a lot of big band type stuff, or just like jazz influenced.
Yeah, there's a spot in River West called the Jazz Gallery. Did you ever check in there?
I don't know. I don't know if that was the Jazz Estate. That was on the east side, but
Right. So the Jazz Gallery is, I mean, it used to be like a spot back in like the 60s and 70s. Like, dudes from Chicago jazz team would come up and play there, but like now it's like there's usually just like some avant-garde jazz stuff, which I can get into. I went there once and I saw someone like playing an upright bass, and they're using like a sheet of metal and like a chain, like dragging it across the bass and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah,
That's
and like
kinda cool.
while some woman was going like literally doing like that kind of stuff into some like weird box, and like, yeah, I was like, all right, I'll watch this. It's more of a watch than listen, that's for sure. But
Right. A visual experience.
I'll go there.
It's like could I listen to this without looking at this? Would it be as entertaining? Huh. Well, that's cool. Yeah. What do you think?
But for me now, it's I consider myself sort of a curator of a library of music. I have the record collection now. I've amassed that over about 10 plus years. Have way too many. I have about 1,000 at this point.
Wow. It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's hard to
And
keep up with, huh?
well, I've been able to turn the hobby into, it's sort of self-sustaining. Whenever I go look for records, I'll find some that I'll buy them for $5 and listen to them and then sell them for 20. So it's like, and I can
nice.
afford a few more of those.
So you do that online, and
I'll do a lot. I do a lot online. Yeah, I sell records online pretty often.
Cool.
But I think maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I would probably reckon that a lot of record collectors have some like strange feeling that they're preserving the music for the future, you know? Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you know, I mean, I can tell you right now, I have at least 50 to 100 records that you're not going to find on Spotify. That's for damn sure, you know,
Right, right.
or
And that's
that
pretty
haven't
huge.
been pressed onto CD, you know,
Oh,
like,
whoa. Well, I guess CDs are coming obsolete too, but
yeah, but they're easier to upload into a computer and then turn into an MP3 forever.
right. You would have to do at least you'd have to have a couple different devices to get a record on a
Yeah,
computer,
yeah.
and then that's it's funny. It's almost that's almost hard to describe the difference in hearing something digital than what would you call it? I guess
Analog.
analog. Yeah, that's right. Or
Yeah,
they say like it's kind of if you looked at a wave of it, the digital would have a lot of holes,
mhm.
like or it'd have multiple things combined as opposed to analog is one full. Am I saying this right? Is this making
Yeah,
sense?
no, you're right. And you know, I'm not as militant about it as like say Neil Young, for example, who
Well,
recently
he finally gave in. Yeah.
he recently said that listening to music through your MacBook is like listening to a Fisher Price speaker or something like that. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
wrong.
Nah.
But there was a time when I finally could. I remember when I first got my first like, okay, now I have my own record player and my own stereo speakers, basically my own first hi-fi system, and I
Right.
was just like, it's over with, you know, like I can't listen to anything else. I can't listen to shit that's not played through actual speakers, and actual amplifier anymore. Like it's just no, can't do it. Maybe a nice pair of headphones, but like
Right.
yeah. And so I've definitely have invested into some audio equipment. I read this book that came out in the 80s called Good Sound that just sort of explained how everything connects and everything works and what you're looking for. And so yeah, I have a good. Maybe you can see the rig.
Developed. Oh wow, that's dope, man. I can see. Oh, the speakers are on the corner of the
Yeah.
shelf.
But
A
anyways,
lot of records there.
a lot of records there, and yeah, I do believe that you know certainly a high quality audio file is gonna sound the best through the right system because there's no degradation possible to it. You know, based on how large the file is.
Right.
You know, like the traditional MP3 is like 128, whereas you could probably go 10 times that much.
Well, no waves, the
Yeah.
highest. But when they say a record's the closest you can get to the master
Yes, this is true.
of how they wanted it to sound or how they heard it in the studio.
For sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
And but like for your average person, as soon as they get a record player and hook it up to again a real amplifier and a real set of speakers, like you know, I wish I could have that happen to me all over again for the first time. It sounds awesome.
Right.
So yeah, and so your average record is going to sound a little better than your average MP3, just because it's closer to the source in that regard.
Sonically
Yes.
closer. Yeah. Makes sense. And that's just even the idea of like a tape reel. You know, you're literally like, recording, burning it onto this reel that's like permanent.
Yeah.
And well, that's I know like Jack White has this, but you can do the same thing with a vinyl, record like directly onto that.
Yeah.
But I think
cut
the
it
reel.
from there.
I think and I think the reel would actually still sound the best, and that's probably how they would do it, like reel master to record.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Which is, dude, you should like look into being mastering things or something.
Oh my god, I don't know if my
Mixing.
ear is that well attuned, but I mean,
You'd probably be a good sound guy, dude.
I probably would. You know, there's only a few people that like master music. Like look up like go on to like online, look up like indie rock people who master indie rock records. There's probably like 40 people that do like the bulk of them. You know, like
Oh, I know.
because you have to really be able to like hear this shit in like a supernatural way almost.
Well, I think but it's also like, because now you have all these automated ones, which
True.
a lot of them really don't sound that bad, but I think they don't sound that bad because of these limited master producers. It's almost, they all have to kind of cater to a certain sound, because it's almost like how your volume's all matched when you hear something on the radio, or every song on an album, or it's almost which obviously there's always producers who will do it different and want to. Rick Rubin
Sure.
has always had really loud records, which kind of started its own thing. But yeah, that's interesting, man. Because I feel like I've naturally got it just from trial and error and editing and mixing so much stuff. Like, I know I hear it better than I used to, or something. Like, you just develop something, and I feel like you probably have in your own way, just through how much you've listened through, and now with records and whatnot, and recognizing the clear difference. But I think I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know if it's a supernatural. Maybe it is. But
not supernatural, but extraordinary. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but it's I wonder if it's that unattainable. That's the question that maybe I just question everything like that.
You might be right. You might be right.
No, but that's a good point though, because you are right that it's pretty limited, and I think a lot of times how they mix, the producer and the artist, how they mix it and engineer it is like, it's very close, and then the master can literally just bring it up to what it needs to do, which a lot of times it isn't always the most different.
No.
But not that we ever always get the chance to hear the unmastered version, but I guess that's just what I just noticed when having to pay other people to master myself. Sure. It's just like, what did you just do? Oh, I kind of see what you just did. I could probably do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'd have to do it like with so much trial and error, like
right.
EQing, and you're like, oh, maybe I found it,
Right.
But whatever. It's all what your experience, and they get paid the big bucks to do it.
Yeah. So I wonder, do you know if you have like some Vermont fans that might be listening or watching the podcast?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I
got a special treat for them.
Oh shit.
So through my record collecting and nerding out, there's this Vermont record label from like the 70s called Green Mountain Records.
Oh, shit.
They put out some really like it's basically almost like a private press label, which if you're a record collector, private press, like people love that shit, Right. Like, it's like
limited copies.
If somebody heard like a popular album now, like let's say there's a musician named Bill Callahan, right? And like he's on Drag City. He's a pretty dope musician. A lot of people know about him, indie rock sort of folk singer. But like if somebody found a record of his and said, "Oh, I found this private press from like the 1974," like people would start paying $3,000 for it and shit like that, because it's like, only 10 of them. Oh, who is this guy?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you get a record, it has the number 1 on it, or the original pressing.
This is the first one. This is a dude named Dick McCormick. That guy. That guy could be a relative.
He definitely looks like he's from Vermont, for sure.
Yeah.
Green Mountain Records.
It's called Voices in the Hills.
Oh, jeez.
And you can find this song on YouTube. It's called As the River Thaws Each Spring. And it says here it's about an apparent suicide in Bethel, Vermont, in the late 1920s.
Bethel.
Robert Bundy was a part of the search party, and he told me the story. And he wrote a song about it. And it's just a beautiful song. You're never going to hear it anywhere besides, I guess, that YouTube, or if you get the record yourself.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Bethel, I'm not familiar where that is. There's a couple of places.
That's the next episode. You drive to Bethel and research Robert Bundy.
I meet him.
And then I got Robert Bundy on the show today.
Or McCormack.
They got Dick McCormick. But then, so I bought some more records from the same label that didn't really speak to me as much as others. But like, there's this dope one, Paula Gillis.
That's cool.
Look at that shit, man.
Made it this far.
Made it this far. Look at her. Vermont.
Wow.
That's what Vermont's all about, right there.
That's definitely it, man. That's dope. What year is that? 70s?
78. Green Mountain Records.
Man, maybe I should try to get signed to them or something. Look them up.
Or
revamp them.
Go to the thrift store and find a couple dead stock, still sealed copies of them. Sell them online for $50.
I don't think you understand Vermont. There are no thrift stores, but yeah.
Really? Why aren't there any thrift
Vermont
stores?
is one of the most rural, like, have you ever, like, traveled much in northern Wisconsin where it's just back roads and you hit a town of, like, maybe 1,000 people?
And there's no thrift stores.
That's the majority of Vermont. There's the other side of the state, about 2 hours away, which I do like bigger shows and stuff. That's like the biggest. It's like the only city actually. I think it's like 60,000 people or something. But it's no, it's just limited. They probably have some decent record stores, and I know they have like big Goodwill or something. But It's funny. It's like even the limited thrift stores that you might find in the country towns, like you don't really want to go to them. I don't know. It's weird.
I do. I'll go to them.
I mean,
Allegra's
all about them too, but she's like, yeah, it's different in Vermont because it's like people like don't get rid of their clothes, or I don't know. They just wear them for 60 years. But yeah, man. What else do you want to put out in the ether?
I guess someone asked me once, like, how do you like the music you like? And I think I just said, I'm always just following the thread to the next thing, So I'm listening to Indian music, and then I'm like, okay, so Indian music's cool, but like, what different types of Indian music are there? It's not just the sitar. There's this instrument I got into recently called the Rudra Veena. Hold on, show you that.
Rudra Veena.
So this is a guy named Ustad Zia Muhaddin Dagar. Look at that instrument.
Oh,
look at that thing.
Great. So is it like very loud?
It's a
bassy sitar almost.
Exactly. It's like these long sustained bass notes.
That is dope.
That are even more trance-like. And the way I found into this ties it all around. This might explain my love of music and the way it connects me into the world and everything in a nutshell. I was at a show at Acme Records here in Milwaukee. Daniel Bachman, a fantastic solo guitar picker who actually is from out east. I'm sure some of your fans probably know about him. He's young. He's like a sort of prodigious dude, kind of in like the John Fahey, Jack Rose lineage.
Okay.
And at the end of the show, of course, because there's only 25 people there, I got a chance to talk to him. I said, hey, man, this one song you were playing, the way you were plucking your strings, it almost sounded, it had like a sitar-y sound to it. And he's like, I know, isn't that cool? I was like, it reminded me of this Jack Rose song called Yaman Blues. And he goes, oh, Yaman Blues, yeah, that's Zia Dag. He's just trying to sound like Zia Dagar. And I was like, who is Zia Dagar? And he's like, oh, look him up. Of course, Ken had this record, so I bought it from him. And so it's all those things are connected, all those different musicians and styles and sounds, and we got Indian dudes, young dudes, and dead dudes, and it's all full circle, and it's all awesome.
Full circle, man. That's crazy. That's really cool, and that's just like it just goes to show, like just being open to all that stuff, and that was like the right place at the right time. And
sure.
You're like, he's like, because like he was obviously probably surprised you knew Jack Rose, right? Or
I mean,
maybe like you
know, yeah. He's probably like, oh wow, I love Jack Rose.
Not the most common.
To him, yeah.
Yeah, and then what do you think like? That is like that you following that thread is just like it's still exciting after all this time to keep discovering. You think that's like what motivates you to that?
That's a great question. I think at this point in my life, I've more or less realized that I'm sort of a caretaker of people and things, being the records and whatnot. And I always want to have the right song for the right time. you know? And so the more songs you hear, the more songs you know, the more musicians you're aware of, the more sounds you're into, you can always have the right thing. So whether it's a friend coming over or a guest or a mood you're in or a vibe or a lot of times for me personally, just like I'm in this mood, I need to hear this song or this type of song or this type of instrument. So always having that at the ready, I think, and then there's some songs where like, oh, this fits this mood, but I wish it was a little more slower. I wish there was an 18-minute version of this song instead of a 6-minute version, and so you gotta go find it. Gotta go find it. Yeah.
Wow. And then that's almost like full circle of like, what your dad would play at sleepy time.
I think you're right.
Because you're like, that's like a beautiful thing. Music is like appropriate for certain occasions. And I mean, I guess in your own right, you're kind of like alter the mood to like, this is because you're like projecting something you're feeling yourself, but it's like through someone else's art.
Sure.
Where you're like, yeah, I want to put this vibe out when I have this company.
Yeah, I mean, that's what radio DJs do, and that's what DJs at shows do. They set the tone for whatever you're trying to do.
I'm sorry, but radio DJs don't exist, Sam. I'm sorry.
WMSC.
Well, now only like independent or podcasts or radio, because whatever the mainstream's like playlist or.
No, you're right about that.
Programmed playlist, wasn't that like a thing? Oh yeah, the last DJ, that Petty. But that's really cool, man. And that's I mean, it's one thing to do it for yourself, but it's almost like more sincere. You're like, yeah, I want to like almost, turn my friends onto something or try to give them almost a similar feeling to what it gives you, right?
Yeah.
Or
I do know that some of my closest friends in my life have been people that have been able to appreciate music the same way as me or to sense where I'm coming from in that regard.
Well, it's funny because it's such a trip for me because like everything you just said of like just the excitement of discovering something new or chasing it, it's just like that's exactly what a musician does. Or I feel like as a songwriter, that's what I do, because it's just like you want more and more to be influenced by, and you want different things to be influenced by. Now, maybe, I mean, I don't know, I probably listen to almost as diverse as stuff with you, but maybe I don't play as diverse as what I listen to. But it's just kind of like, again, it's mind-blowing you're not a musician or a songwriter or something. You're chasing the same dragon, man.
I'm pretty sure Leonard Cohen didn't come out with his first album until his late 30s, so I still got time.
Hell yeah. There you go. Still building up. Your first song will be like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man. That's awesome. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. What do you think?
It's funny how the circle never ends.
Right? You just keep on chasing it, but yet it comes back around and it reminds you where it all started. Man, yeah, you just have like, you had a great kind of head start or upbringing in cultured, timeless music, and props to your parents.
Well, I'll remember that.
Getting it started, and you're doing well. The same. I was thinking that earlier. I have a 2-year-old now. You're gonna have a kid soon, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to turn my kid on to so much different kind of music.
For sure.
And maybe some of it's like, yeah, this is more appropriate for a 2-year-old, but there's just so much stuff that is. You know what I'm saying?
I won't lie that I have some distinct excitement about whoever my kid being and finding some of my records and being like, what the fuck was Dad doing? Like,
exactly.
What?
How did he get into this shit?
This album is called The 5,000 Spirits or The Layers of the Onion.
Whichever you choose to your liking.
Okay.
Who's that?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to those days.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that is full circle, and that's hopefully you continue that tradition. And I think I've gotten on your brother before, especially when we were playing together more. of like, bro, you gotta like make an effort to find new shit. And he's like, oh, I got my brother for that. I'm like, bro, you could do both. Like, you could have your brother and find your own shit. Because he's like, you know, everyone we've already talked. I love the Beatles and the Stones. I'm like, yeah, who the fuck doesn't? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you know, my brother turns me on to a lot of stuff. So yeah, whatever. Yeah. But cool, brother.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Good talking to you.
It's been an honor. You know, like I said, those who appreciate music, they play a role too. And
100%.
If there weren't critical fans or people who demanded something new or experimental or better than what's come before, then music would just sound like it does when you go to a restaurant or mall and they're playing whatever auto
exactly.
shit. That all sounds the same, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think you might have opened the door to some more guests on the podcast. I mean, I like to keep it somewhat music oriented or based, but it's truly, and I think especially fans like you, people who really, it's a big part of your life, in a sense, almost as much again as a musician, but it's just kind of a different outlet, so to speak. But it's we need each other. You need the fans just as much, and especially nowadays, man, you need those super fans.
Oh yeah.
But I guess we're just so saturated with stuff, we can just be like, we have so many options of what we want to get into, and which is nice. But 21st century, brah.
Well, I'm proud of you, man. Keep up your trajectory. Keep up your journey. I know you.
Bro, and thank you for always listening, and give me the goofy iTunes review. And no, but you actually do listen, and I'm not always too stoked about things I've put out, but it's all part of the journey.
Exactly.
And, you need to give me your new address because I got this finally. This is gonna come out in like 3
weeks. Oh yeah,
weeks,
dude!
but...
Nice album cover.
And this is the thing. You donated to the campaign?
I better have.
$10 or something. It took a while because I've been promoting the shit out of it and actually work with a real marketing guy now. But yeah,
that's good.
I'm really proud of it too. It's like it's 5 full band songs and 5 one-man band songs. So it's like a 50-50.
Oh yeah, Shady Bone Groove's my new favorite song. By you.
First song on here.
By you.
By me. Well, you probably heard some old version too, so this will be even better. But yeah, shoot me your address. Can mail that to you. I need to get a record version of it, but I think I would only do that if I had a record player.
That makes sense.
Plus, my shit is fucking mastered on digital. God damn it! I need to go old school and just get old analog tape reels and.
You just need to break into Jack White's studio. And you're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Fuck you! I just finished recording my album. See you."
Oh no, he has like a thing. Yeah, you could like go to his record company in Detroit and like.
Yeah, Neil Young did one of those.
Dirt cheap, like you can record on the spot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like it's only one take. You can't. It just is what it is, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But well, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Let's talk soon. Shit, man, baby coming in June, man. You gotta keep me updated on all that.
I will.
And we'll have something where I'll try not to tie you to Matt's podcast, but
Thank you.
No, I think that could be a good one. And I gotta try to get your brother out here. Whatever, fucker.
Best of luck. He's a Luddite. The last thing he would do is be on a podcast.
He's like, I'll record 10 songs with you first. That'll never happen. All right, man. Let's talk soon. Keep in touch. Peace, brother.
Peace, Jacob.
Good seeing you. All right, that wraps up the 6th episode of Music, the Universal Language Podcast. That was Sam Sowl. My name's Jacob Green. Peace, guys.